Yo guys, welcome back. Today we are covering Valby. I have 4 builds set up. The one which you just watched in the gameplay versus Infernal Walker, then 2 mobbing builds, one built in the crit using Blue Beetle, the other non-crit using Peacemaker, and the last is our gun build using the Transcendent mod Supply Moisture. Before we get into the builds, I want to share some basic mechanics going on with Valby, with Peacemaker, Blue Beetle, and a buff from the Immersion tree. First, let's look at Peacemaker's unique ability. Surging Peace, when using a Dimension or Fusion skill, grants a unique ability, Single Reload for Peace. When Single Reload for Peace is at max stats, shooting while aiming rapidly fires all loaded rounds. That is something we won't be doing. We will not be shooting this gun at all. We are here for the non-attribute skill power per stack. This stacks up to 5 times with a 15-second duration, and we will be able to proc this with basically all of our abilities. If you are bossing, this is the main ability you will be using, and it is Fusion, and it does proc it. And for the second bossing skill, I will use Plop Plop when the boss is down, just to get enough water down to keep it around him for when he starts standing back up. And as I said, I would also like to talk about an inversion reinforcement. When using a skill, grants Quantum Domain skill effect range plus 0.8% and skill power plus 0.6% up to 15 stacks, and this lasts until you die. So these will stack up together just from spamming her one ability. So if you're in a Colossus fight, before the fight, you want to be spamming this before the Colossus even spawns, and especially in the area that he will be spawning, and it's quite easy to get these stacks up. The Peacemaker stacks stop at 5, but the Quantum Domain stacks will stop at 15. And now let's look at the unique ability for the Blue Beetle, which is very similar to the Peacemaker, except giving a different buff, which is going to be a skill crit hit rate buff, and you will be able to proc this with just your fusion skill, so that'll be your one ability. Let's take a look at our skill crit hit rate before we proc this, which is at 14%. And now after, also including Supply Moisture, will be up because we are standing in the water, and we are at 98.75%. So to keep this up in your mobbing, where you will mostly be using your 3 ability, you simply just want to use this, then use your 3 ability, flow your way through the dungeon, and once your 3 is up again, use your 1 and go back into your 3. And it's that simple. You pretty much keep the crit buff for the entire duration of your waterway. Okay, now we have those basic few things out of the way. Let's get into these builds. First, the build we used against Infernal Walker. I just want to say that this can be done even better than the time that I have put up in the gameplay. My reactor is not level 5, it is a level 2. And if I had a gold cooldown instead of a purple cooldown, I would have a 1.5 second cooldown on the first ability, which is the main ability we will be using in the fight against Infernal Walker. A fully min-max Valby can probably do a sub 1 minute Infernal Walker kill. But let's get into the build. We are not running any Transcendent modules here, and we are running a non-crit build. So we're using Fusion Amplification, non-attribute amplification, focus on Fusion, focus on non-attribute. Then we have our 2 cooldown mods being MP Conversion, Nimble Fingers. We are splitting up our skill range and skill duration with skill expansion and skill extension. And for a little bit more range, we are using amplification control. And for our HP amplification. For our reactor, we are using a hand cannon mounting to go with our Peacemaker, non-attribute fusion, cooldown, duration up. Like I said, gold cooldown is going to be your best in slot here. For our set, we are running Slayer set on the auxiliary power, max HP, MP recovery out of combat. On our sensor, max MP recovery in combat. On our memory, MP recovery modifier in defense. And on our processor, max shield recovery modifier. I will say having the MP rolls on the set is very important, or you will most certainly run out of MP very fast. For our Peacemaker, It does not matter how you build this. You just need the gun on. And the only mod you want to throw in is going to be Defense Master. When defeating an enemy, defense plus 128% for 10 seconds. For our inversion buffs, we are using Void Resistance, Adrenaline Rush, and Heightened Sensory Cells. And our very important one is going to be the cap on this, like I said before, Quantum Domain, which is giving us skill range and skill power. And next up, we will go over the non-crit mobbing build for Valby. Once again, for non-crit, we are not using any Transcendent module. We're using Fusion Amplification, non-attribute amplification for our damage mods, along with Focus on Fusion and Focus on non-attribute for their cooldown and damage. For our 2 cooldown mods, we're using MP Conversion and Nimble Fingers. We will not be speccing into any duration with this build. We are going full range, so we're using Skill Expansion and Amplification Control. You could use Maximize Range, but I do not want to get the negative skill power that it includes. For our survivability, we are running HP Amplification, and for MP, we are running MP Collector. Moving on to our reactor, we're using a non-attribute dimension with skill effect range and duration up. If you have cooldown, that is also something you can use here. There are many things you can use with this. We have our basically perfect setup with the cooldown duration with the mods. So feel free to just use a reactor that you have hand cannon on that you are happy with. As for our set, we are running Slayer set, and it's the same substats as I already mentioned before. I will run through them. And for our gun, once again, Peacemaker, we will not be shooting this. The only mod you need slotted in this is going to be Defense Master. You do not need any other upgrades for this. And our inversion buffs will be the same as we were running before. And now we will go over Valby's crit mobbing build. For this one, we will be using a Transcendent module. It is going to be Supply Moisture. So because of that, we will be building into crit with Skill Insight, Skill Concentration, and Emergency Measures. For our damage mod, we are only running Focus on Non-Attribute. For the damage and the cooldown, MP Conversion and Nimble Fingers. For our extra cooldown, Skill Expansion and Amplification Control. For the added range, HP Amplification and MP Collector. For our reactor, we want to make sure we have Scout Rifle mounting because we will be using the Blue Beetle non-attribute dimension because our main damaging ability will be our 3 and we have cooldown and duration up. You can run a variety of things here, just like in the non-crit mobbing build: cooldown, duration up, range, maybe a damage substat, whatever you have that has Scout Rifle on it. For our Slayer set, once again, we are running the same exact substats, and I will run through those quickly. And for our Blue Beetle, you do not need to build this weapon. We are mostly here just for its unique ability, and we can slot in Defense Master. Once again, when defeating an enemy, defense plus 128% for 10 seconds. This is very nice for mobbing on Valby because she is a big target and she takes a lot of damage. And once again, for our inversion reinforcement, we're using the same exact as we have been. Okay, and now we will get into Valby's gun build, and I will be showing a shield gun build that is relevant to Deathstalker. It can be used for all other Colossus before Deathstalker as well, as this is a very viable, very high damage gun build. First, I want to show our Enduring Legacy before we proc Supply Moisture, and we are at a 40.28% Firearm critical hit rate. Now simply proc Supply Moisture by using your 1 ability and standing on the water. And now we're at a 80.56 Firearm critical hit rate, which is in fact 2 times the amount. Now, let's get into the modules for this build. As I said, this is a Supply Moisture build, and this is also a shield build. So Overwhelming Shield is going to be the main component of that. Fixes your max HP at 1 and increases max shield by 26.8%. So we want to stack as much shield and HP mods as we can, but also making sure the build works. So we are running increased HP and increased shield, stim accelerant, and amplification control. Amplification control is giving us range and also max shield. We are also running skill duration to keep our water up as long as possible, so we have plenty of time to shoot our enduring while we're just standing in it. We're using MP conversion and nimble fingers to be sure that we can spam our 1 when we need it to have our water up, and Shot Focus, which is giving us 15% firearm attack. We are losing skill power modifier, but we are not interested in skill power for this build. And lastly, Biosync Shield, which is going to make you heal your shield off of HP orbs. Now, for our reactor, we are running a machine gun weapon mounting, because that is what we will be using majority of the time, is the Enduring Legacy. Although I said it is not important to build in the skill power, I would still run a non-attribute fusion if you can. The main thing here is you're going to want the cooldown for sure, so you can make sure that you have your 1 ability up every time you need it, because if you're not standing in your water, you're not hitting that 80% firearm critical hit rate. And skill attack when Colossus isn't a must. You could put duration or range in that spot as well. As for my components, I am running a 2-piece Decimator with a 2-piece Invader. We want the 2-piece Invader for the max shield, and we are using Decimator to get a little extra firearm critical hit rate. And for those that don't have a Decimator set with good substats on it, another option here would be to run the 2-piece Invader and the 2-piece Annihilation set. These all 4 have max HP on them, which is going to get you to 22,852 shield. If you do not have the Invader piece, I would just suggest putting the correct substats on the pieces and making sure the main stat for all your pieces is max HP until you can farm to get the Invader set. As for your substats, you're going to want max HP, MP recovery out of combat on the auxiliary power. For the sensor, max MP recovery in combat. For the memory, MP recovery modifier and defense. And for your processor, shield recovery modifier and max shield. And now let's move on to our weapons for the build. And the main star of the show is going to be Enduring Legacy. For our substats, we want firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, and firearm critical hit rate. If you do not have firearm critical hit rate, this is one that could be swapped around to multiple things. You can do weak point, or you can do fire attack. They pretty much equal out to the same thing, but I usually keep firearm critical hit rate because I play a lot of Valby, Enzo, and Haley, where I'm going to want that firearm critical hit rate. As for our mods, we are running a sharp precision shot build. If you're playing Deathstalker, you are going to want to run the 2 fire mods. Outside of Deathstalker, I would run edging shot in place of the second fire mod to be like this, and that will be the 80% critical hit rate setup. Now, for a secondary weapon, you can run Smithereens, you could run Executor. They're pretty much both the same setup. As of now, Smithereens, I believe, is the higher damage dealer. I have a video covering Smithereens versus Executor. I will link it at the end of this video. For substats, weak point damage, firearm attack, bonus firearm attack versus Colossus, and firearm critical hit damage. For your mods, you'll be running a real life fighter build with these mods, and you will want to match the enhancement mod for element to the Colossus that you are fighting. I will also cover Greg's, as that is a very good secondary weapon. For Greg's, we want firearm attack, firearm critical hit damage, weak point damage, and bonus firearm attack versus Colossus. And for our mod setup, we are running a fire conductor setup. We have our crit mods, crit damage mods, our fire rate mods, firearm attack, and our 2 weak point mods. And if you do not know this, weak point is going to scale with the damage of your bombardments, and that is why you want weak point on this. Now, for this third weapon, this is just a general rounds economy setup. You can use any lightweight general rounds weapon. I would suggest this, or maybe Thunder Cage, or another handgun. The big thing here is you want these 3 mods: general rounds compulsive, expand general magazine, and normal special rounds refining. Firing Fiesta is here, as you can have this gun out when you're starting the fight, reload, switch to your Enduring, and you'll get about 2.5 seconds of free ammo with your Enduring Legacy. And lastly, we'll run into the Immersion Reinforcement. As for this one, you can do something different, or you might want to take off Adrenaline Rush and then match a attribute focus rounds to the ones that we're using. So for Enduring, we would be matching with fire rounds. And the rest is pretty much the same: void resistance, heightened sensory cells. Well, that covers everything for Valby. She has a lot going on with her. I think she's in a real good place with the recent buffs coming into the season. I really enjoy playing her, Infernal Walker, and for mobbing. Any questions or suggestions about the build, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe is appreciated. Be sure to stop by the Twitch when I'm streaming and get into the Discord for great conversations about TFD. The links are in the description. Thanks, guys. Peace.